This Martinsville 2 DFS Picks edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHM.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you asked me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. Welcome to your Friday. Welcome to your weekend. Hope you had a pleasant and safe Halloween. Hopefully, those of you with young enough children that really, took advantage, full advantage of being able to go out and fill their buckets for your benefit.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was about to go, Rod. I had a lot of candy last night. Very, very delicious. It was. It's always a good time when the kid gets enough candy to share plenty with you. Got to take that dad tax, of course. But had a good time. November. It's fucking November, Rod. Jeez, can you believe it? Happy November 1st. Happy Friday. Sadly, only 2 weekends left in the NASCAR season, but they're going to be two pretty fun weekends. This weekend at Martinsville, it's going to be a good time setting the Final Four for all three of these series.
I agree. And yeah, so there are a couple of milestones as a parent or as a human being, actually. That milestone when you stop trick-or-treating because you get too old, and then you hit the milestone where you can now start to trick-or-treat again because you got kids, and you got to love both of those milestones. So like I said, hopefully you had a great one. Welcome to November. Welcome to another turning of the calendar in which we prepare for 3 NASCAR races this weekend in Martinsville, where we will crown the next, the last person, well, the last 2 people that are going to be entered into the playoffs. Race for Phoenix next weekend. And Cody's getting down to the wire.
In the Truck Series. We got 2 for Xfinity, 2 for Cup, but 3 spots open for the Truck Series. So
that's right.
It is down to the wire, Rod. And it's going to be, we're in for a good weekend. Martinsville, it's short track racing. You know how the tempers can get on short tracks. You know, the moves people are willing to make, especially the Xfinity Series. We've seen a lot lately in this particular race that people get down and dirty when there's a spot for the championship on the line. It's in our opening, right? I wreck you for the championship. I'd wreck my mom to win the championship, and that's how it is.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want to wreck yourself for a championship, but I guess if you had to
help.
Send it Hail Melon style and against the wall to win a championship. That's the type of commitment we want to see from everybody this weekend. But the type of commitment to listen to this show is what we want to thank you for doing over and over and over again this season for several hundred episodes over the course of the life of this show and this season. We always appreciate your support. We love the love, not only in the chat as we're going by, but also on our socials and in our Discord. But if you could take it one step further, the bosses would appreciate it, and just toss a 5-star review our way, whether that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. If they allow you to associate stars with the show, we appreciate the reviews. We appreciate the 5-star ratings each and every time we see them come across our desk. And help prevent corporate gambling from taking over the world. Every star is another chance to put a stake in corporate gambling. So do that. Show the bosses you love us. Show us you love us. And we'll just continue to crank out these episodes through the off season and give you more content that we love and that you love. So, Cody, today we are talking DFS and we are talking Martinsville DFS. We'll give you our favorite plays as we always do from each of the 3 series. And then, of course, wrap it up with a couple of our favorite underdog plays for the slate, which, by the way, just happens to be it's just Cup Series right now. But as you look later on down the road, and plus you can use our advice to gauge what you should take on these underdogs if they're not posted yet.
Yeah. I mean, going back and listening to the betting episodes for the Truck Series and Xfinity Series, you're going to get a pretty good idea, right, on a lot of the underdog picks of if we like a guy for a certain reason, if we don't like a guy for a certain reason. Obviously, we try to pick some different guys when we get the chance to cover it. But, of course, in the Discord, we'll always give our advice and answer questions, too, if you have those. So make sure you're over there, sg.pn/Discord. And hit us up on the socials, too, if you need help getting in there or finding your way around.
We are always happy to help, and happy to help is what we're here to do. So, Cody, as we always do every week on the DFS episode, especially when there's 3 series, we'll give you our favorite building blocks for the particular series and particular slate. Doesn't have to be the highest price guy or lowest price guy, just a guy that we think belongs on at least one of your DFS lineups. And then from there, you can build out how you see fit. But Cody, I don't know that there's anything really newsy to talk about today. I think we can get right into the picks. How about you?
I think we can get right into the picks, Rod. And so, speaking of guys that like to help out, Daniel Dye is one of those guys. We love his camera shots. Fox loves his camera shots. Michael Waltrip specifically loves his camera shots in the Truck Series race as always. And I love his DFS price this week, Rod. He checks in at just $7,000. Nice and cheap option for you. Again, you're going to want your Eckes's in there. You're going to want your higher priced guys, right? Save a little bit of money here with Daniel Dye. And Dye, well, he's got a few volatile races in there, right, where things go wrong. For the most part, he's a pretty safer driver for you, and he actually offers some upside. You go back last week, 37.5 points at Homestead. It's 74.5 the week before. That was Talladega, so a little bit of an outlier. You did have a couple of negative points races in there, but then 43, 42, 52, 33, 39, 45, 35. Daniel Dye, just a guy that kind of gets it done. So doesn't ever start overly great. He's about a 7th to 15th place starter on most weeks. Started 7th last week at Miami, finished 7th. So basically just held serve. That was good enough for those 37.5 points. You like to see that. Go back to Martinsville, obviously a short flat track, right? Milwaukee, it's a bigger track. It is a mile, but it's still a short flat track in a way. Started 10th there, finished in 8th place. That's a strong day. Richmond starts in 13th, finishes in 8th, another short track there. Nashville, he had a 2nd place finish. North Wilkesboro, though, another short flat for you, finished in 9th place there. He's got 9th place at Kansas, 6th place at Texas. Now, those are bigger tracks, but in the Truck Series, again, it's more, there's less comp tracks, of course, with less races and more about your season and series overall throughout the year. So Daniel Dye's been a strong guy all season. $7,000. I think he's a good building block for your DFS lineup in the Truck Series this week.
Yeah, and again, his efforts are being rewarded by a full-time Xfinity ride next year. So when you get recognized, I mean, it's hard not to when you're holding the camera, right? And you're the one that's Michael Waltrip is constantly being in the drum for. It's kind of hard not to get recognized. But again, his driving has backed it up. And I think as far as DFS is concerned, always a solid play, and most definitely a solid play this week as well. Somebody who is a solid DFS play that probably, I mean, I know we talked about him on the betting episode yesterday as well, but like, this is a guy that not a lot of people like to, because they feel like, oh, well, he's not finishing. He's not winning races. He's not finishing in the top 3 every single week. But if you look at Matt Crafton, stealthy DFS play each and every week as well. Averaging 29 points for you per race this season. Just a little bit around 4 times what you're paying for him this week, $7,200. Look, last week he got you 43 points in the race, which, again, that's a fantastic day. But that's not even really going into the story of what he's doing for you on short tracks altogether. Earlier this season, he finished 4th place at Bristol after starting in 20th place. That is good for 65 fantasy points for you. That is a tremendous amount of fantasy points. So you kind of want him to be able to start deeper in the field, because then you're going to get a ton of place differential from him as well. Martinsville earlier this season started in 12th place, finished in 24th place. That is another fantastic start, or a finish rather, getting you 43 points on the day there as well. You go back to Darlington. He crashed out of Darlington, kind of a bad day. 20th place at North Wilkesboro. I mean, again, that's not really a race he's been good at, but 10th place at Milwaukee, a 15th place at Martinsville, 6th place again in Bristol earlier or just a couple of weeks ago, mind you. So he's been getting some good solid finishes on short tracks. That 43-point day a couple of weeks ago is, you take that from a $7,200 driver guy, because that's in and around a full 7 times what you're paying for him. So again, a guy like Matt Crafton, not going to be high on a lot of people's radar, but when you're getting good solid finishes from him overall on some of these short tracks, especially this season, you'll definitely take it. 8th place at Pocono earlier in the year. I know it's not a complete short track, but it's shorter, right? So, and then you got to figure too, these truck racers don't run a lot of races in general, right? They've only run 20 run races so far. And if you're completing races within the top 10 at a high rate on these short tracks, there's not that many of them. You're going to take the finishes that you get out of them. So I like Matt Crafton this week. I especially love the price that he's at, because this is going to shy away a lot of people that don't want to pay $7,200 for Matt Crafton, but don't realize that Matt Crafton's been good on short tracks this season. Yeah,
he's been good on short tracks this season, Rod. I made the point for him yesterday on the betting episode to be the top finishing Ford at the end of the day. 41 career starts at Martinsville. That is an insane number. He's been around this track so many times. 23 top 10 finishes, 3 top 7s in the last 5 races here. He's been really good at Martinsville. It's a track he seems to show up well at, and I think we're going to see that from Crafton this week.
I concur. All right, we are going to get to our Xfinity picks in just a second, but allow me the opportunity to introduce you formally to Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all of sports. You get NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, Formula One, and so much more. Boostober, well, it was upon us, which means you were getting a spooky amount of profit boosts and so much more. You can use your specials and boosts on all flex entries, which means that the ones that we give you later on in the show, you will be able to add to the many, many other picks that you'll be making this weekend for the races. Sign up in the meantime with our promo code RACESGPN. You're going to get a special deposit offer and a bonus up to $1,000 in cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN. Let us continue down, Cody, with our Xfinity picks for the DFS slate.
Let us do that, Rod. I am going to go back to the Austin Hill that I'm going to die on, Rod, because it's Austin Hill, man. $8,800. I talked about him on the betting episode as well. Again, a lot of translations between betting and the fantasy side of things, right? We saw it last, obviously, 93.6 points last week. Starts 16th, finishes first, led 82 laps, 29 fastest laps. That's a bit of an outlier for Hill, right? You don't generally get that from him, but he was $9,300 last week, Rod, and he's $8,800 this week after that performance. Yeah, again, yes, Rod scratching his head if you're not watching on YouTube, which is sort of interesting. So, but yeah, Austin Hill, like I mentioned before, it's just he's solid each and every single week. He's going to get you points. We talked about it. I think he's going to be looking ahead to Phoenix. Yes, it would be stupid to not already be prepping for Phoenix, right? But I think that Martinsville is a different type of track. It's not the same type of racing as you get at Homestead. I think there's less. I don't really know how to, I guess, word what I'm trying to say, Rod. Not that there's less prep, because a lot of prep goes into every race, but it's a lot more similar to what Phoenix is, and it's a track that he's raced on plenty of times. He's had success on, and I think that he's going to be able to show up even with less preparation than normal, because he is starting to focus on Phoenix, still have a good day, and it's just Austin Hill. Like Austin Hill, this isn't Joey Logano, who's already inconsistent and has already had a bad season. Austin Hill shows up every week, and he's just good, and he's just consistent, and he can do it no matter what it is, no matter where it is, and that's what he does. So 34th place in the spring, was 8th place after stage 1. Of course, got into a wreck. Not going to help your DFS if that happens again, but can't predict wrecks unless it's Scott Larson's for Speedways. I had to get one more in before the end of the season, Rod. Sorry, Chris. He almost won this race last season, though. Had that tussle with Sheldon Creed at the very end of the race, so not a good result then either, but he was in position. He was there with the chance. 16th, 9th, 4th place finishes in his other 3 starts. Here, he won last week, of course. 5th place at Iowa, shorter, flatter track. 4th place at Phoenix earlier this season, shorter, flatter track. I really like Austin Hill this week. I think for whatever reason, his price coming down to 8,800. Hill's a guy that you can look at just about every single week. It doesn't matter if it's a road course, a big track, a short track, a super speedway. I mean, he's just good everywhere, brings that consistency for you. And I don't think that it's a week that you need to fade him at all. And I'm going to play him this week at $8,800.
There's been a discussion going on in the Discord about that type of thing. And I know that the concerns with everybody is like, well, he's this particular driver's checked out. This guy doesn't have anything to drive for anymore. But there's certain drivers, Cody, in the entire circuit, right, in all 3 series, that just are consistent no matter what the situation is. It doesn't matter if they're racing for a championship, if they're racing for point. It just, they are, and Austin Hill's one of those guys that just, it doesn't matter what's going on around him. He's going to be in the same spot almost every single week.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, we were so big last week on Joey Logano, and you got to fade him. But then we were not consistent with that with Grant Enfinger, because there's such a difference in the Cup Series to the Xfinity Series, especially to the Truck Series. But even from Cup to Xfinity, there's just a lot less elite cars each and every week. In the Cup Series, we got 18, 16 winners this season, and guys that haven't won, right? Martin Truex, Kyle Busch. Like, we've seen guys that even haven't won races that generally win races or have in the past. And then you put on top of that the level the Cup Series is at. You put on top of that Joey Logano and how bad he's actually been this season. He wouldn't have even pointed into the playoffs if he didn't win a 5 overtime race. Now, they've played their cards exactly right, and that whatever the case was, Rod, however they got into March Madness, whether it was just because everybody else in their conference sucked, and then do you get 8 buys through the conference championship game, you win on a buzzer beater, and you get into the NCAA tournament. Well, then they, won on a buzzer beater, and then a bad foul call later, whatever, they've got here, right? They're in the Final Four. It doesn't matter how you get there, but it's not like he was good all season. So it was the perfect spot to fade him. I think that does change this weekend because we've seen how good he is at Martinsville. But just to kind of touch a little more on that conversation, because we did have that, again, this is another great reason to be in the Discord, because we can continue the conversation over there. But that, I think, is why it's a little bit different.
Yeah, and again, it carries through, and we know that this isn't the same, because football, the venue changes, but not much changes past that. Your game plan changes a little bit based on the defense that you're going to be playing, but you're going to be either throwing the ball, running the ball, or kicking the ball, right? Whereas NASCAR, it's like the track is completely different. The guys that are racing around you have different agendas. It's all different, and it's all different week to week. So, all right. So for my Xfinity driver, I'm going to take Austin Hill's Richard Childress Racing teammate in Jesse Love, because I think both of them stand to have a fantastic day. Love comes in at $8,600. He's priced like a mid-pack driver, but has quite the upside for him as a top 5, if not a top 3 driver for Jesse Love. And I like that. You got to look back at what he's done over the course. This is his first full season too, by the way, in the Xfinity Series. So his short track racing record is as stands for this season, because this is what he's done. This is his resume entering this week, and it's a pretty damn good resume, if I can say the least. In the 6th race of the season, he started 8th place at Richmond, ended up finishing in 5th at this Martinsville track. The following week, started 11th and finished 9th. So not like great place differential, but you're banking on a solid finishing position from Jesse Love to get it going. Darlington started 12th, finished 8th. There's some progression, but there's a good solid finish on top of that. Nashville, not a short track, I get it, but started 38th, finished 3rd, right? And that's a really good day for him as far as DFS is concerned. Darlington, later on in the season, started 23rd, finished 6th. That's a damn good day there too. Bristol started 10th, finished 4th. Another solid day on a short track. You get the theme here? He's really damn good at short tracks this season. No matter where he's starting from in the grid, he's been able to hit the right strategy. He's been able to move up. He's been able to do the right things and keep his car clean enough to where he can get himself into good positions at the end of the race. 33.1 is his average fantasy points per race this season. Jesse Love has only lost you points in 2-3 races this season, all season long. And for a rookie, that is saying something, especially when you can keep your fenders on your car and come across the finish line. And at $8,600, that's not a bad investment considering there's other guys up there that are a little more wild card than Jesse Love has been this season on short tracks.
Yeah, it's actually crazy how good Jesse Love has been because, excuse me, I got really excited, Rob. God, I'm really pumped up about Jesse Love. Like, he gets overlooked. It's almost like Christopher Bell syndrome with Jesse Love because you just don't even think about it. He's just solid every week. He's kind of in the mix. He's right there, but we don't talk about him a lot. And there's not a lot of good ways to bet on him because he's respected enough in the betting market, but he's not overly great to where you want to really jump on it. And so he's sort of in that weird spot where we don't talk about him a lot here, but it seems like he just doesn't get talked about a lot in general, but he's super consistent. He's made the round of 8. He's only a rookie this season. He's had a really strong year. His teammate, obviously Austin Hill, is locked in. I just talked about him. They're probably going to use Austin Hill to help Jesse Love. I think that is still viable, and Hill can still have a good day, even if in practice he's testing setups for Love or whatever the case is. But he's obviously going to be able to give his focus and his expertise on helping Jesse and coaching him through this weekend, which I think is a really good thing for Love. So I do love your Love pick, Rob.
I love that you love my Love pick. But I will say that if we ever get top 10s next season in Xfinity, which, by the way, if you're I know the books listen to this show. I know it because I've seen it with my own eyes. I know it. We've seen with the numbers shift as soon as our show is over. But just please give us top 10s for Xfinity, because that's the kind of, that's this season especially, we would be getting down on some Love top 10s because that's where he is. That's where he's at right now. And it'd be great to have been able to bring up his name more often, because top 5s, yes, he's done it. And yes, he's been in that, but it's hard to predict Jesse Love top 5s, even on this type of a track, because you've seen it, a couple 4th place finishes, but a couple of 6th place finishes as well. And we would have been covered on a top 10 bet for him, and so that's what my plea to you as we close the season out, as you reevaluate your bookmaking, start giving us some top 10s on Xfinity and trucks, by the way. So love you.
Agreed.
Miss you. Bye. All right, Cody, let's talk about the Cup Series, where we are again at Martinsville for this short track. This is it. This is the one where, a couple guys gotta really come hard if they want to be able to make it onto the championship 4. So who are we targeting in this DFS world for this race?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, of course, the top guys, right, the playoff guys, you're going to want to target and look at. Bell, I think, is the one that sort of concerns you a little. I would even consider playing Joey because he's been so good here. We're actually going to talk about him in a little bit, Rod. But going down and trying to find somewhere to save money, I suppose, is sort of the direction I wanted to take this in. And this is a guy that I wanted to talk about this week, but I didn't find a way to bet on him. I think you had a bet on him in the betting episode earlier this week. I can't remember if you did or not. I feel like you might have. But either way, Rod, Bubba Wallace, it was a long time ago. Bubba Wallace, $7,800. It just absolutely shocks me how good he's been at Martinsville. And I didn't even realize it until I was pouring through the numbers this week. And I'm like, I look for different trends and different things, and he just kept popping up. And I'm like, God, he's actually been really good here, right? 4th place finisher in the spring, really good run there after starting in 2nd place. He finished 11th place here last fall in this exact race. 9th here in the spring of 23, 8th here in the fall of 22, 16th here in the spring of 22 as well. That's all his next gen runs. Right before that, the 25th, the 16th, the 21st, but even back in 2020 in Richard Petty Motorsports cars, which those cars were not good, Rod. 11th place finish here, a 13th place finish in both of those 2020 and 2019, I suppose. And then a 17th place finish even back in 2019 as well. So he's sort of always been good here. Got a Truck Series win here back in the day as well. A track that, you think about Wallace and you think Kansas, Talladega, Daytona, like those are the tracks that he's kind of really good at. That's where you want to think of him a lot. But Martinsville, quietly, pretty good track. I don't know if you've seen his paint scheme for this weekend. It's Columbia teaming up with Star Wars again. So I know that you'll like that, Rod. Of course, I don't know if you're a Star Wars or a Star Trek guy, I guess, but I know you're. I know you like to nerd out a little bit. So personally, I love Star Wars, and it's a pretty wicked paint scheme, I guess. So good looking paint scheme plus good at the track. It's the winning combination, Rod. 7,800. I think Bubba would be a good DFS play this week.
Yeah, for the record, I am a Star Wars guy. There's just so much Star Trek out there. I can't keep track. My buddies, they love it, but
yeah, like I've seen all of the main Star Wars things, right? And I've like here and there some of the spin-off stuff. I'm not as much into the nerd world, I guess, but I've never really seen any of the Star Trek stuff. So I don't know. That's just how it goes, I guess. But
well, I know beam me up, and I know that I can't do this. Oh, hey, look I did it. Live long and prosper.
Look at that. Oh, there you go.
I did it twice.
So
sweet.
There we go. All right, good. Well, there was your nerd segment of the week, brought to you by Nerds, Rod. Oh, come on.
Oh,
what a great. We could have a nerd segment of the week by Nerds. Let's go. Cool. I don't know what company makes nerds, but they should hit us up.
So actually Wonka. Wonka makes nerds. So Wonka, if you're out there listening, I would most certainly love to pump your product. Okay. Absolutely. We've reached the part of the show where I try to atone for my sins. And
blink twice if you're being held against your will, Rod.
I am. I most certainly am being held against my will, but that's okay. Ty Gibbs fans, this is my way of saying I'm sorry. And this is the way we get in on Ty Gibbs this week and play him into DFS, because here's the deal, right? Ty Gibbs, people have soured on him because, maybe not because of me. No one listens to me, but I will say that there's a part of the NASCAR world that knows that he hasn't been running well this season, that have not been blinded by 54's blinders. And I get it, because that's the sophomore slump, man. He has not done well this season overall. 16.3 place finish after an 11.8 average start, 12 top 10s in 34 races, 8 top 5s, no wins when people thought he was going to be winning 16 races this year and finishing in the top 5 in all 34 of the races so far. Just hasn't happened over the last few weeks, man. 35th at the Roval, 30th at Las Vegas, 36th at Homestead, 13th at Talladega. I mean, he did have a 5th place at Kansas, but 15th at Bristol before that, 22nd, 17th, 20th. These are not marks of a guy that you are really high on. But I will say that this particular week is an okay week to play him in DFS, especially because he is only, there he is, $8,700, which, is still kind of pricey for me. But by the same token, I feel like he can give you a decent enough return. On this particular track in general, not good for him as far as the Cup Series has been concerned. A 19th place finish in the spring. Started 15th in that particular race. He started 2nd in the fall of last year, ended up finishing 18th place finish before that. And then he did have one good DFS day, and that was his rookie year when he was starting in the 23. I remember he was making an emergency start there. Started 26th and finished in 19th place. But in the Xfinity Series, he's won on this track. He finished 8th on this track. He finished 4th on this track, along with the 27th place finish as well. So not bad finishes there. Been okay on short tracks this year. In fact, a really good day at Bristol where he started 19th and finished 9th as far as DFS day for you. You kind of love to see that. Then followed up by a kind of rough day at Richmond where he finished 16th after starting 8th. Martinsville started 15th, finished 19th. Again, I'm not building a very good case for him, but I know that he finished 2nd at Darlington as well, which kind of adds to he's got the potential to do this. It's just a matter of can he do this as well. So like I said, 15th place finish at Bristol earlier in the season. The time is running out for Ty Gibbs to be able to put in a really good effort for himself to end the year. He's going to be a car owner next year, which means he's going to have to turn his attention to cars and driving as well. But look, Ty Gibbs, $8,700.
He's already had his attention there, but
well,
he'll be officially listed now, so that's good.
Exactly. No, listen, to me, this is more of a play where a contrarian play on a GPP because people are not going to want to play Ty Gibbs. And I get it. I don't want to play Ty Gibbs, but I think this is a perfect spot to get in on the contrarian side of things Because if he does have a good top 10 day, then you're going to, and look, you think of all the people like Hamlin's got to do well, Reddick and Bubba, they're going to do well Toyota wise. So if Toyotas are going to be running well, Ty should be able to run well this weekend. So,
yeah, he definitely a GPP play. I will say that. I know that from talking to some Ty Gibbs fans this week. Shout out to Erica. They're not very excited for the rest of the season, Rod, because things haven't gone well. But I think everybody else is going to feel the same way. They're not going to play him, and we know that Ty has that ability to go off. And like if Ty Gibbs wins this weekend, it'd be surprising, right? And it would be an upset, yes, but it's not like, oh my God, where did this come from? Like you knew it was coming eventually, and he's capable of doing it. We've seen him do it here in the Xfinity Series. He's had really good runs here, and he certainly can get it done. So I think that definitely in a contrarian world where you need to be a little different in GPP, he's going to have a low roster percentage and could be a big play for you.
Yes, it could. And then, like I said, this is me covering my bases. So I only have one race left to make up for it. I'm not going to do it over at Phoenix. So this is it. This is my only chance to make up to Ty Gibbs fans before we say goodbye for the season. And you don't see me again for another couple of months. But love you all. Thank you for listening. And let's get out your pen and paper. We're going to go over real quickly our DFS plays for this Martinsville slate. In the truck series, Cody started you off with Daniel Dye at $7,000 as his truck driver. I said Matt Crafton, fantasy old man, is going to come through for you this week at $7,200. In the Xfinity Series, Cody gave you Austin Hill at $8,800 as his driver. I said his teammate Jesse Love at $8,600 would be a solid play as well. Cody in the Cup Series gave you Bubba Wallace at $7,800 for his driver, and I said Gibbs at $8,700 would be my driver. All right, that wraps up the DFS portion of it. We'll come back with our Xfinity plays for the Cup race. But before we do, I would like to take this opportunity to tell you about Rhythm. So SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. You could build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me, and Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Rhythm went 24-3 in their props for NBA Night 1. You definitely want to get down and build yourself your own model, just like mine, where I'm trying to predict which side of Saquon Barkley's rushing totals I want to be on. I thought for sure I wanted to be on the over, so I had to make a model to back myself up. And guess what? Thank God Rhythm backed me up. Saquon Barkley is going to crush whatever number you can get him at right now. And I definitely love that I got it at 84.5. So make sure you get down on yours as well. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. We're also brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business. BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years. You can easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts. US players, you're always welcome. And you can also get a raffle entry and all kinds of great stuff if you get down there now. Look, we gave you a ton of our favorite plays over on BetUS as we broke down the Xfinity Series a couple days ago. They were giving us some fantastic numbers on that. So go listen and find our favorite BetUS bets there. In the meantime, go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN so they know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. Well, Cody, we told you earlier about Underdog Fantasy. The premise is simple. You go there, you see all of the projected finishing projections for the drivers, and then you decide whether or not they're going to finish higher than or lower than, better than or worse than that finishing position. Really pretty simple, Cody, and you stack up of those multipliers and walk away with a fat load of cash at the end of the day.
It's exactly how it works, Rod. I love it.
I mean, it's a simple formula, right? There's that formula on South Park where it's like collect underpants, ? Profit. That's exactly what it's like to play on Underdog. It's just select it, ? and profit. So Cody, Cup race is out now. There will be Xfinity and trucks later in the week. So pay attention.
F1 too, if you're into that, along with every other sport you could want just about on their Rod. They've got all of it, which is always good to see. First up for me, I'm going to fade Austin Cindric. They have his fantasy projection at 13.5 for a finishing position. I don't quite get this, Rod, and I am definitely taking the worst end side. 5 career starts here, 23rd last time out here in the spring. He did finish 9th here last fall, so give him credit for that, right? That's better than. But 33rd, 26th, and then that very first finish here was 11th place. So 2 of the 5, he's actually gone to the better than side, but I am definitely leaning towards the worst end side. In a general sense, seems to not be too good here at Martinsville. You look at how things have gone for him lately. 27th place at Miami, nowhere close to 13.5. Las Vegas, he was 34th. Did have a 4th place finish at the Roval. Okay, that's a road course, so whatever. Talladega, 32nd. Kansas, 34th. Bristol, he did manage a 13th place finish, and that was sort of his run of some good finishes, right? Bristol, Watkins Glen, Atlanta, Darlington. None of those really translate to this. Bristol, short track, okay, but doesn't really translate otherwise. You go back and you look at Richmond, 24th place finish there. New Hampshire comp track, 19th place. Gateway, I suppose you could make some comparisons, right? Flatter track. It's a little bit bigger, though, more than a mile. And he did win that race, right? But he's always been really good at Worldwide Technology Raceway, just kind of an outlier. Go back to Phoenix in the spring, 36. That's kind of your other short flat. 23rd here in the spring, not good. I don't quite understand why Cindric is up here now. He's got a little bit of that Joey Logano in him where he'll pop up and have a random good week here or there. But most of the time, he's worse than 13.5. And he's been worse than that more times than he's been better than in his career so far here at Martinsville. So give me the worst end side on Austin Cindric at 13.5.
Yeah, and honestly, you could just probably make this case for Austin Cindric just about anywhere that this season, especially. I mean, he's had his successes this season. Let's not bury the lead, but it's just been tough to pick and choose when he's going to be good. It's easier to say where he's going to be bad this season for sure. So I like that as well. All right, I am going to go with a guy I was almost going to talk about on the DFS episode, because when you think of Brad Keselowski, especially this season on short tracks, you're like, you know what? Brad Keselowski, good choice for a short track. His finishing position is set at 12.5. I mean, you almost want to take the better then, right? He finished 3rd at Bristol. He ended up finishing 8th at Richmond. And then he ended up winning the race at Darlington earlier in the season. He's had some great finishes at short tracks this season, right? You're like, yeah, go Brad Keselowski. But then all of a sudden you just open up his Martinsville and you go, oh, yeah, this is probably not the track to do it at. He is 0 for 5 right now in the 6 car, finishing better than 12.5. He has finished worse than in all of his starts in the 6 car at Martinsville. 17th place in 2022 in the spring. Followed that up with a 36th place finish in the fall of 2022. A 24th place finish in 2023 in the spring. A 33rd place finish in the fall. The pattern is not good, especially in the fall races. And then 24th earlier in the spring. He's starting well. 6th place in 2021. 9th place. 6th place. 21st, that wasn't a good start. 10th place. 13th place. But boy, does he not finish well at Martinsville for whatever reason it is. Sometimes you're good at a particular discipline of a track, but there's one in particular that jumps up and bites you in the ass. This, my friends, is that one for Brad Keselowski. You read off all the short track stats you want. You tell me how fast he's been at short tracks on every other short track in the world. I will point to you that Martinsville has something for Brad Keselowski, and he is not going to finish inside of the top 12 in this particular race.
Yeah, this line is another one that sort of blows my mind. There was the Keselowski days, right? He used to be really good here, and he had multiple wins over a few year span, and really, like all the way from 2012 through 2021, even all in Team Penske, by the way. He had some really good finishes here, really good runs, led a lot of laps, including a 446 laps led in 2019. But since the next gen car, since RFK, it has been all bad news for Brad Keselowski here. I don't know why that would change now. We've seen the RFK cars kind of fall off towards the end of the year, right? We haven't talked much about Keselowski. We haven't talked much about Buescher other than in a negative way, right? Fade the Fords. And you sort of mentioned them like, well, we're not really concerned about them. And I don't think you should be again this week as far as the RFK camp goes. and Keselowski being one of those, obviously. It's 12.5. I mean, he really hasn't even come close to this in the next gen car. 17th, I guess, 5 races ago. But otherwise, 24th is his best finish twice. So it puzzles me a little bit as to why his projection is set this high, I guess. So yeah, this is an easy worst end for me, Rod.
Well, and if you even look at his last few finishes, like ever since the 8th place at Daytona, 14th at Darlington, 19th at Atlanta, 26th at Watkins Glen, 26th at Bristol, 22nd at Kansas, 2nd at Talladega, yay, but we know how that happened. 23rd at the Roval, 36th at Las Vegas, 17th at Homestead. This falling on hard times for RFK and Keselowski. So yeah, I'm definitely taking the worst then on this one for sure.
Yeah, absolutely no argument here. All right, Rod. Joseph Logano, talked about fading him last week. Worked out well for us. Not fading him this week. I've alluded to it all week. There wasn't really a way I wanted to bet on him. Couldn't find a way that was there. But in the fantasy projections here for Underdog, 9.5, I like the better than side. Joey Logano has been good at Martinsville. He could sleepwalk right through this race, Rod, and have no issues. He's just been really, really strong here. So 9.5 is the projection. If you go back through his last 5 races here at Martinsville, that would be the 5 in the next-gen car, all better than 9.5. That includes, Rod, 2022, if you'll remember, we had this exact same situation, right? He's in the playoffs. He wins Las Vegas, the first race of the round of 8, locks himself in and has a horrible race at Homestead, exactly like we thought was going to happen last week. But then he comes here at Martinsville, finishes in 6th place because he just can't finish bad here, it would seem. So last 5 races, he's done better than 9.5. 6 races ago, Roddy did finish 10th, so he was half a spot worse. But then you got to go all the way back. His last 10 races have all been inside of the top 10. So that 1/10th place would be the one that wouldn't be better than this number. He had a 19th place finish all the way back in 2019, but before that, a win, a 6th place. If you go over his last 16 races, there's only 3 instances where he's been on the worst end side of things here at Martinsville. He's just really good at Martinsville. I don't know that there's any other way to boil it down. Old car, new car, been good, locked into the playoffs, eliminated from the playoffs. Doesn't matter. Driving with his eyes blindfolded. He's just good, gets it done. And I think there's no reason to think that he won't do it again this week. Is he going to be helping Ryan set up for this race? They've got to win, obviously, most likely to advance to the next round. Absolutely. Will he help play defense where he can? Absolutely. Can he do all of that and still finish better than 9.5? Well, he has just about every other time we've been here in the recent future. So no reason to think that he won't do that again this week. Again, it was really, I couldn't find a way to bet on him. And you know how I feel about Joey as far as he's so hard to figure out where he's going to be, but maybe he's not so hard at Martinsville because he's going to be in the top 10, top 9 most of the time when we come here. And so I like Joey Logano on the better than side this week. Sort of I don't know that it's a sneaky pick, but I think that it sort of is because you think, well, he's focused on Phoenix, you're not worried about him, but then you get a 9.5 and it's like, he's pretty fucking good at Martinsville. So I like it for Joey.
You know, it's that age-old battle of whether or not you rest, how much you rest players before. Like if you know you're locked into the playoffs, like 2-3 games before the season's over, how much do you start resting the players? How much do they need to get the reps to keep the edge in? And if you, I guess, as a race car driver, start to take a couple of weeks off in a row, maybe that edge is gone. So yeah, you gotta keep it sharp. So love that, especially on a good track for Joey Logano. So I'll follow you on that one. All right, this is one of the few remaining times that we have to tell Martin Truex Jr. that he's pretty much already retired. I don't know why, I don't know how, and I don't know where, but you are taking full advantage of the Truex worse than 10.5. There is no way Martin Truex is a top 10 car this week. I mean, look, I could just point to his finishes on this track alone and tell you exactly why. In the last 4-5 races, if we go back all the way to 2022, he is 1 for 5 finishing inside of the top 10 on this track. 2022 in the spring, 22nd place finish. It's not even close. That's the thing. Like if it was like 11th place, okay, 12th place. No, this is not even close. Like there's one close finish. 22nd in the spring of 2022, 20th place in the fall. A 3rd place finish is his lone top 10 finish in the spring of 2023, followed by a 12th place finish in the fall of 2023. earlier this year, he finished in 18th place. But then you could say, all right, Rod, but he's got some good finishes at short tracks this season. Yeah, sure does. Second place at Bristol, good for him. A fourth place at Richmond, even better. Then that 18th place at Martinsville, as we talked about. And then he turned around and had a 37th place finish at Richmond, where the engine blew, right? This is where the season really took a sharp southward turn for him. 36th place at Darlington to follow that up, a 24th place at Bristol after that. I mean, listen, it's just not very good for Martin Truex Jr. He had a top 10 finish at Las Vegas. That's cool. He had a third place finish at Kansas. That's even cooler. But this is a short track, man. This is where he used to have a lot of success. And right now, there is just really no huge success. Then when you talk about the fact that we've got 8 playoff drivers right now vying for 4 spots, that probably is going to take up at least 6 spots in the top 10. And then we talk about drivers that can hit there. You just talked about Logano being another one. I know he's a playoff driver, but essentially not necessarily. But, you know, the spots in the top 10 are starting to fill up. And I don't think Martin Truex Jr. is going to put together a good enough day to get himself inside of the top 10. So give me Martin Truex Jr. worse than 10th and a half place.
Yeah, hard to argue against this. The results just haven't been there lately. Again, another driver like Keselowski that as good as he's been here in the past, right? Won 3 of 5, couple in a row, like really dominant over the years. It's not been so much lately. And of course, we've seen how he's run this season too, for the most part, especially trailing on the latter part of the season just hasn't been good. So no argument from me there.
Indeed. All right, Cody, I noticed there was one thing in the doc that you wanted to get on. Do you want to touch that real quick before we head on out?
I would like to touch that, Rod. I think that we should give out our Final Four for all 3 series going in. So obviously half the Final Four is filled out in the Cup and Xfinity already, and Fingers already in the trucks. But, Rod, who is your Truck Series Final Four going into Phoenix next week? Give us your prediction.
Well, I think it's got to be Enfinger. I think it's going to be Heim. I think it's going to be Eckes. Those 3 are so far up in points that it's going to be difficult to knock them off. So really the question is, who's going to dethrone Ty Majeski, or will Ty Majeski get in there? You know what? Call me crazy, but I'm going to throw Raja Karuth in there. I think he actually comes in with the win. And we talked about how good he has been on these tracks in the betting episode. So I think Raja Karuth could be a spoiler and could end up winning this race and getting himself in. So I like that.
You stole it from me, Rod. That was the play I was going to go with as well. I was going to toss Raja as my 4th. I think Enfinger, Heim, Eckes, those 3 are going to be in. They're obviously all sitting, well, Enfinger's punched in, and the other 2 guys would need a catastrophic day to not make it in. So it really is up to that 4th and final spot. I guess I'll leave Ty Majeski in there and say that he's going to battle for a championship, Rod, if Piano doesn't fall out of the sky at Martinsville on him, which could happen.
Oh, it definitely, most definitely will happen. All right, then, Cody, fine. I will give you first dibs on the Xfinity Series. Who is your Final Four in the Xfinity Series?
Yeah, so Xfinity Series, obviously Austin Hill, AJ Allmendinger are already locked in, so those will be 2 of the 3, Rod. I am going to put Cole Custer in with them, and then Chandler Smith is going to pull off the upset. He is going to find his way to Phoenix, maybe his last race before he goes home to work at his dad's construction company, Rod.
Poor guy. He's definitely there. You know what? I think the top 4 stays as is. I have a hunch, like I said, in the betting episode, that Justin Allgaier will win this race. Therefore, I have a feeling that we can keep him in there. And then Cole Custer, it's going to be hard to point him out because as we go back to the betting episode, I have him as a top 3 car, and you have to finish several spots above Cole Custer to point him out. So I think the top 4 stays the way it is. I don't think any of these guys below the cut is going to upset the apple cart in this instance.
Yeah, I think that the top 4 stay in the way that they are in both the Xfinity and Truck Series wouldn't be very surprising. It's kind of the way it's set up right now, the way the points are running. You'd really kind of need an upset to upset the apple cart. But the big question, the one everybody wants to know, Rod, I'll let you go first on this one. Joey Logano is going to be racing for a championship. Tyler Reddick's going to be racing for a championship. Who are the 2 drivers that will join them in Phoenix with a shot at the title?
So I already talked about the fact that I think Ryan Blaney is going to go balls out to try to win this race, and that he's got a really good shot at doing so. So I will give the spot to him, a 3rd spot to him. And then it is so difficult to choose between Hamlin, Larson, Elliott, and Byron. Like that is a weird mix that one of these guys is going to miss.
So
Or
my
these
question though, if you have Blaney winning to
Mhm.
get in, do you think that anybody can catch Christopher Bell with the cushion he has?
No.
Because he's 20. He's 29 to the good, 22 ahead of Byron. So assuming Blaney were to win, he would be 22 points above the next person that would need to catch him.
Yeah. So then no. So then I would be Bell. It would be Blaney. Those would be my other two. Because isn't it crazy to think that we have 300 drivers sitting on the outside?
Yeah. Jeff Gordon was on the Kevin Harvick's happy hour pod or whatever this week, and they were talking about that. You go from having 4 cars in the round of 8 to potentially none, or maybe, I think the way that Jeff worded it, they think they can get 1 in, essentially, right? They're hoping for 2, but 1 is probably their best bet. But yeah, you could go from having all 4 in the round of 8 to potentially none in the final 4. I do think 1 will make it to the final 4, Rod. Joey, Tyler, obviously locked in. Christopher Bell, I do think points his way in. Chase Elliott's going to win at Martinsville. Upset the apple cart. Then we're going to be holding that big 50-1 ticket next week. Oh, it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful thing. So that's, I've got Logano, Reddick, Bell, and Elliott as my final 4.
Beautiful stuff. Yeah, we know that I have even year Logano already marked as my, so that's who's taking this home. But
yes.
All right, Cody, we have reached the end of our DFS episode. We've reached the end of our week, and we've reached the end of the penultimate weekend of the NASCAR season. So all that's left is to say goodbye, and we'll say hello again on Monday to recap all of the series of racing. So
goodbye.
We
that was all that was left. So
we are great podcasters, Cody. We have come into our own 534 episodes into the world.
We're getting this down. All right, Rod. Goodbye. Follow me on the X at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff over there. Let's kill it this weekend. Have some fun. Go crown some champions next week. I'm pretty excited for that. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe. Don't forget to turn your clocks back on Saturday evening. Enjoy that extra hour of sleep. That's going to be very nice. Goodbye.
Yes, goodbye. And yeah, for the record, remember that, because then you can get that extra hour of sleep so you can enjoy the races while not groggy. Because if you're, thrown off, then that's all on you. All right. Love you guys. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, anything I got going on. You know what it is by now. And if you don't, you'll find out. We'll see you guys next week for the recap show and get ready for the last week of racing. So until then, let's go racing and let it ride.